Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a brand new deck profile, and today we're going to be doing an update to my Ezel deck. So it's been a good part of a year, I think, since I last did a profile on this. I think legit when set 5 came out was the last time I ever showed Ezel. So it's been a good while, to say the least. Now the deck has changed a little bit from my last build. I'm no longer playing cards like Kaiden and Howell in this build. I've tried to more focus it on the superior riding element that Ezel's known for, and also preserving resources for other cards that Ezel uses as well. So yeah, without further ado, we'll go into the deck, and I'll show you guys what I'm playing. So for our grade 3s, it's pretty straightforward for the most part. I'm pretty sure we all know what we play in an Ezel deck. We have our 4 Blond Ezel, and we of course have our 4 Raven-haired Ezel. This hasn't changed for the most part. I think it's pretty much stayed the same ever since Raven came out, really. But yeah, both of these are staple, and you want to maximize on your Ravens so that you have a chance on getting that extra ride so that you can get both of those grade 3s ready for your Platina, which is the last grade 3 that I'm playing. Now, Platina was the one I was experimenting with the most just because I did want to bump it up to 3 copies just because at times when I was playing 2, I just wouldn't see it. But at the same time, when I was testing 3, I was getting a lot of moments where I was clogging with it a lot. And I felt like 3 was just a bit, like it was overdoing it a bit. So I'm much more of a fan on just playing the 2 of it, and it's been working out for the most part. There's still games where it's a bit awkward where I sometimes don't see it, but Raven is at least a decent enough Vanguard to be pressuring your opponent with anyway. Now, that is essentially it for the grade 3s. So I decided to take Sagramore out of the deck because I was actually testing it for a bit. But I did notice that Sagramore was causing a little bit of complication when it came to like calling stuff from my hand. Because of course, Sagramore, you need to Soul Blast, draw a card, and then call something from your hand. But I was having moments where I just didn't have anything decent to call from my hand. Like I'd legit just have triggers more times than often in my hand, and I have nothing decent to call. So I decided to go with a little bit of a different direction here, but still tried to go for something that gave me some plussing, you know? So we'll go to the grade 2s. We have our 4 copies of Beaumains and our 4 copies of Wonder Ezel. This is pretty much like Blond and Raven, essentially, in terms of staples. But yeah, I know that there's builds where it just focuses on these 2 grade 2s, and that's it. But I wanted to go with a little bit of a different take and go with 2 copies of Viviane. Now, Viviane actually came through a few times in some testing I did, where there's a problem that I have with just running these 2 grade 2s, where with you having only 8 grade 2s, if you just play these, you've got a really high chance of G-assisting a lot of the time. And one of the problems that Ezel has is that it doesn't really have a good enough engine to be plussing with in here. Like, there's a lot of 1-for-1 exchanges, sure, and Excel 2 does help with that, but there's not really a lot of stuff that generates as advantage, you know? Ezel is a very, like, glass cannon deck. It's very aggro, but it doesn't really have enough resources to be defending itself with. So I put the Viviane in here because I thought in the worst case scenario, if I G-assisted and got into one of these, then the problem I have with that is that both of these cards need another card in order to work for the superior ride. So if I G-assist into Beaumains, it's not really going to be doing me anything if I don't have the Blond Ezel. And same thing with Wonder Ezel. If I G-assist into this and I don't have Howell, then I'm kind of in a losing situation there. But there has been scenarios where I will ride something like my Wonder Ezel, not have the Howell, but I can use my Viviane to try extend into the Howell, which has actually happened recently. So Viviane is more here just as like a fail-safe, you know? It's like an alternative way for me to get the pieces that I need for the superior ride. It does cost a bit in terms of resources, but put it this way. I'd rather ride the Viviane and get a plus from it rather than G-assisting and then whiffing on the extra piece. Because that is essentially just giving away the game at that point, I feel. Because you're just going to be so far behind in terms of advantage that you're just not going to be doing that much anyway. So, yeah, I felt like the Viviane take was a bit of a better direction, just in terms of the feel of the deck overall. But I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to take it out, but I feel like I want the consistency there for the grade 2 ride more than like I want to avoid the G assist more basically because yeah, I just don't like the minusing aspect of it that much. So yeah, that's what I decided to go with in terms of a change. But for the most part, for the grade ones, most of these are the same as well, with the 4 Howell and the 4 Dindrane. Actually, Dindrane is actually at 4 now, because I remember my older Ezel deck, I actually struggled putting multiple Dindranes in the deck because I had Howell in the deck with Kaiden. So with the Howell and Kaiden engine out of the deck, I have more room to play more important pieces in the deck, like the Dindrane, because Dindrane, along with like your Wonder Ezel, this essentially fights back the scenario where your opponent might damage deny you, which is really, really hurtful for Ezel, because your Vanguard essentially needs a counterblast per turn, and if you don't have one, you're not really going to be doing much that turn, are you? So yeah, Dindrane, I much like it as a 4 of in here. I think it's much more important than playing like a third Viviane, for example. So I decided just to go for the 2 and the 4 in terms of the soul blasting units in the deck, because these are essentially the only cards in the deck that soul blast. Soul is a very precious resource that we just don't have access to a lot in this deck. Howell does actually give us the ability to generate soul, but that requires a counterblast in itself, so it's a little bit fiddly, to say the least, with soul in here. Now, I did decide to go for the 3 Gareth, and the reason for this is because of the synergy it has with the Dindrane. Because let's say you have the Viviane and you ride the Viviane, right? Well, if you already have Gareth in your hand but not the Beaumains, obviously because you would have rode the Beaumains preferably, you could potentially fish out the Beaumains with the Viviane, and then because you get the Beaumains and the Gareth on your rearguard circle, that still gives you access to Blond Ezel's Superior Ride, since Blond Ezel only cares about Beaumains and Gareth being on Van or rearguard circle. So that is still sort of an alternate way to do so, and get that Superior Ride off, which is pretty cool. So yeah, the 3 Gareth, quite like this, and also it gives us more targets for the Beaumains to actually call boosters from the deck, which is actually quite viable sometimes, since we need those boosters to help our rearguards hit numbers, so that's pretty cool. Then the last grade one I'm playing is the 2 Brennius. This is essentially to help out with Howell and having more ways to generate soul in the deck. Because basically, when it comes to this deck, you're only going to have, like, on average, about 2 cards that you can soul blast from your soul. Because you want to keep the grade 3s, obviously, for your Raven and your Platina. So having other ways to generate soul would basically give you more availability for your Dindranes and your Vivianes to actually activate. So yeah, I feel like these 6 units in the deck with the Brennius and the Howells is a nice alternative way to generate soul in the deck, since we can't really rely on the Vanguard ride that much. And we can still use that. You can still use the Vanguard ride with the Brennius to get that extra soul. So I feel like that works out quite well. So yeah, that is essentially the core of the deck in terms of what I decided to go with. By all means, you can make changes to it if you don't like it, but for the most part, when I've been testing it, it's been working out alright, But like I said, Ezel does struggle with advantage generation overall. I'm kind of looking forward to see how Gurgrit's going to be when that comes out later in the year, I think. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But for the most part, I much prefer this version of Ezel than my last version. There's a lot more freedom in terms of like how you're managing your resources. Like Howell, for example, is used a lot more often in this deck, and just having that flexibility with your resources is just a lot better. So yeah. And finally, we have the grade zeros. We have the 1 copy of Kyrph, of course. This is the brand new Kyrph with the Quick Shield skill, thanks to the Festival Collection, which is pretty cool. Also notice that this one is quite darker in comparison to like the first printing of Kyrph, which is quite nice. I do prefer when the cards look a bit dark, so I don't know if there was like an inking difference when they printed the Festival Collection, but yeah, the coloration of this new Kyrph looks a lot nicer. Now, when it comes to the triggers, I actually decided to go with only 3 crit in the deck. Reason being is that with Ezel, you tend to just hit like a wet fish more times than often, so I wanted to have a little bit more access to front triggers, just to help out with my field getting a bit of a power boost. So yeah, we've gone with the 3 Flame of Victory, the 3 Dantegal, and the 2 Drummer. So 5 front and 3 crit is what I thought was the best direction to go with the deck. And yeah, so I have seen different variations where they play like, more crits over fronts, but for me, I feel like with Ezel, you really want all your rear guards to be hitting, or at least hit something, even if it's like a rear guard. And defenses can really put a spanner in the works. So front triggers is more of a reassurance that your units are going to at least do something, It's okay having a unit on the board, but if it's not doing anything, it's kind of a wasted space, So yeah. But finally, we have, of course, the 4 draw PGs. These haven't changed, and the 4 heal triggers. And yeah, that's essentially going to wrap up the deck quite nicely. In terms of the way Ezel plays, though, like I said, it just struggles a lot in terms of generating advantage, I find. I find, in terms of the gold paladin decks that we have accessible, Agravain does generate more pluses, I feel, overall, and we do have the Garmor variant as well, which is actually what I'm going to go back to. I have this, I don't know what it is. I have this habit of whenever I play Ezel, I always want to go back to Garmor because Garmor just, generates pluses and actually has advantage generation and just feels better. I don't know, but I always have a spot on my heart for Ezel. It's one of my favorite units. And I always like revisiting it whenever I can. So considering it's been over a year-ish since I've done a profile for it, I thought I'd show you guys what my updated variant was for the deck. But yeah, tell me guys what you think about the deck list in the description below. Tell me what your builds are. Tell me what you think about the Viviane tech in the deck instead of just relying on the Beaumains and the Wonder Ezel. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, I will come at you guys probably with... I'm thinking about doing an OTT collection, I think, and then probably a Tsukuyomi deck profile before Susanoo comes out, I feel. So that is the plan for the rest of this month, I feel, because Susanoo comes out next month at the beginning of September. So yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next video. So like always, guys, take care, have a nice day, and this is Guardian, signing out.